Blinded by Wealth, Part 7. His voice filled with cruel amusement. Do you think I married you because I love you? His chuckle was dark, mocking. I never loved you. You are a sacrifice. This is what you came here for, and you must fulfill it. The words cut deeper than the blade ever could. She wasn't a wife. She was a pawn, a tool for his greed. As the ritual continued, Abena's vision began to fade. The sharp pain that had consumed her seemed to numb, replaced by a strange, overwhelming fatigue. Her body felt heavy, as though it no longer belonged to her. She tried to focus, but the room began to spin, and then, through the haze of pain, she saw them, figures, pale and ghostly, hovering in the shadows. Their eyes were hollow, vacant, their bodies marked with the same ritual scar that now matches her own. Their voices, soft and haunting, whispered in unison, 3 years, 3 years, 3 years. Each repetition echoed in her mind, sending waves of dread through her chest. These were the spirits of the women before her, Mr. Aqua's previous wives, each one sacrificed for his insatiable greed. Abena's heart pounded as she realized the truth. They had been here just like her. They had suffered just like her. Their faces twisted in sorrow as their eyes locked onto hers. She could feel their pain, their regret. Run, one of them whispered, her voice barely hearable. Run before it's too late. The whisper was filled with an urgency that sent a cold shiver down Abena's spine. But how? She was trapped. There was no way to run. The walls seemed to close in around her as the ritual continued, the shadows in the room growing darker, more menacing. Back in the village, Abena's family was falling apart. Her father, once strong and proud, had begun to weaken. His health had worsened rapidly since Abena's disappearance, and the burden of their grief and confusion weighed heavily on him. His frame, once muscular and full of life, was now frail and trembling. Her mother, unable to stand the silence any longer, made the painful decision to travel to the city in search of her daughter. She clutched the address Mr. Aqua had given them, her last hope, she believed, despite everything, that she would find her daughter living in luxury. But when she arrived, the address led her to nothing. There was no mansion, no lavish house. It was a dead end. The address was fake. Confused and heartbroken, Abena's mother searched desperately, asking anyone she met if they knew a man named Mr. Aqua, but no one recognized the name. The city was large, and the streets seemed endless. She wandered through the bustling crowd, calling his name, hoping someone would know where he was, but it was as if he had never existed. No one could help her. No one knew him. Realization hit her like a punch to the gut. She had no picture of him. Mr. Aqua had refused to take any wedding photos. There was no proof he ever existed. No record of the man who had promised her daughter a better life. It was like he had erased himself from their world completely. Days turned into weeks, and still there was no sign of Abena. Her mother returned to the village, empty-handed, her heart heavy with defeat. She was exhausted, drained from the hopeless search. The weight of loss hung over her like a thick fog. Her husband's condition worsened, and the one strong man who had always been the pillar of their family now lay bedridden, weak and frail. Abena's mother could do nothing but sit at his side, her own strength fading with each passing day. The villagers began to talk. The promises of wealth, of a better life, had turned out to be nothing but lies. The house, the cars, the riches, they were all just empty lies. The villagers had waited for something that would never come, and now They whispered in hushed tones, their faces filled with pity. "It's all a lie," one of them muttered. "They are just as poor as before." Abena's family, once full of hope, now lived in poverty, far worse than they had before. They had traded their daughter's life for empty promises, and now they had lost everything. As the days passed, the truth became undeniable. Abena was gone. The man who had taken her from them was a shadow, a ghost with no face, no trace. And the family she had left behind, once proud and hopeful, now live in the shadow of despair. Their dreams were shattered, their spirits broken. The price of blood had been paid, but the cost was far greater than what they had ever imagined.